Hello viewers, today we're going to do a N62 timing chain procedure. I have several people requesting this and I have decided finally to do it. It's going to be interesting because this is X5 E53 with N62, but it's one of the rarest ones because it is 4.8 IS. So this is like the Empower version of E53. And for the people that are watching this video, probably going to say that this is kind of old. Just show you the coaster that is to 8000 RPMs, which is pretty cool. The coaster is like on the E46 century. And yeah, the timing pressure is going to be the same on all the cars. The E70, on the E60, E63, doesn't matter. It's going to be the same. So yeah, we are missing the beauty color, but pretty much if you have this engine, you're going to recognize it. This is the motors for the Valvetronic. I'm going to need to remove the wiring, I'm going to need to remove the valve covers, the water pump, the front cover, and we're going to replace of course the coolant valley with the pipes. Now is going to be the perfect time to do it, because if you want to replace these pipes by procedure, you're going to need to remove the timing cover on the front. I know people are selling telescopic pipes here. I have tried to use them, they are a nightmare to be used. Their snaps in place really hard and you never know are they going to leak or not. That's why I'm going to buy OEM one and now I'm going to replace it. So yeah, this is the car, E53, in pretty good condition actually. I don't know why, but this car is on 160 something thousand kilometers and I'm going to show you how it sounds. I have done several startups to show you how the chain sounds like. I think it's the chain of course, but I don't think anything else can make that noise. So I'm going to start it one more time to show you how it sounds, and after that we're going to start disassembling and see what is the condition inside. So let's do it. The cool part is that the car doesn't have LPG. This is kind of rare in our country, so this is a clean N62 with everything stock, without any additional wiring and LPG injectors and stuff. Once again, it only misses the beauty color and everything else is like on probably your engine. Yeah, probably some coolant pipes and stuff is going to be different, but overall the mechanical part is going to be the same on your engine. Little bit of update, I have removed some of the things so to gain access to the valve covers, so to work a little bit easier, because as we know the V8s are always terrible to work on. So yeah, this is the how it was called, additional heater for the interior, which I have disconnected the both hoses. Actually I found out that one of the hoses for the heater, it looks kind of better as we can see because of the oil, because on the top is the hydraulic fluid reservoir and because of the oil it gets a little bit squishy. So probably we're going to replace these holes. I have removed as much as possible on the front, so to be able a little bit easier to film it and to work on, of course, the holes on radiator. Now I'm going to remove the intake manifold. I have disconnected almost everything, so to be able to remove the installation on the car. Now I'm going to remove also the Valvetronic motors, which are hot with 4-5 bolts I think, and always make some pictures on this box where the Vanus solenoids are connecting, because you can mess up this box. As we can see, the box are completely identical. In this case they are guiding, as we can see, this, the top one is going on this one and this one like that, but because it's going to take some time until we assemble back everything together, it's possible to twist it somehow and after that to not get so good in their places as on the other side. Once again, they're going to guide itself, but still, just to be extra precautious, do one quick picture where each port goes. As we can see, one goes on the side of the wiring loom and the other goes on the top, so that's why you can distinguish them. So to be able to remove the valve covers, you're going to need to remove the Valvetronic motors, which are looking like that. They are the same, but still I am marking them, so this is the right one. But if you mix them up, it's not going to be an issue. The part number on them is the same. To be able to remove them, you're just going to need to undo the 4 bolts, and when you go to the last bolt, you just need to hold it just a little bit with pressure with your hand to not pop out freely, because it's going to have some tension because of the springs inside, on which is holding the Valvetronic eccentric shaft. And after that, you're going to uncover this plate, which is held with 4 more bolts, and you're going to be able to remove it after that. Because if you don't remove this, you're not going to be able to remove the valve cover. Okay, so the intake manifold is removed. It was held with 10 nuts, all of them located on the side, 5 on each side. I have removed it with the whole fuel rail. I just disconnected it here, and yeah, prepare yourself because this is heavy. It has 2 plugs on the back, here and here. So yeah, this is how it looks like. And some tip, always, before covering your intake ports, check what you have inside, because while you're removing the intake manifolds, pretty much always you're going to drop down something inside, because this haven't been removed for a lot of time, and some debris got trapped between the intake manifold and the walls of the cylinder head, and when you are removing it, it drops down in the intake ports. I have sprayed with compressed air a lot, but still, as we can see, here is clean, but here we have some bug. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to remove them. So always check. I have seen even nuts to drop down in the valves. Check them before you continue, because it can get messy. And that's why we're going to replace the valley, and it's always a good idea to replace it when you're doing this job, because as we can see here, it has started to leak down a little bit. This is from the antifreeze for sure. That's why it's the best idea to do it now, because you're going to need to remove the water pump with the thermostat housing, plus the timing chain cover. I almost managed to remove the valve covers, but it is not so easy as usual. So to be able to remove this valve cover, I'm going to need to remove this plastic here. And to remove this valve cover, this AC pipe is on my way. You're going to say that this is a big car and you're going to have a lot of access, but this is not the case for sure. But pretty much almost everything is removed. I have removed the alternator. This was the only way to remove this plug for the alternator, was to take it out a little bit further. After that, I'm doing the plus cable. When I remove it, I managed to remove this plug and finally move all the installation out of my way. This is the whole installation, plus the installation for the coil plugs, which they are removed. Here is the van solenoids. Here they are. There are 4. For each cylinder head you're going to have 2. They are all the same. They are not different part numbers. Doesn't matter how you're going to mix it. The important thing is to check your screen, filter screen on your valve solenoids, to see is there any debris on them. In this case, they look pretty clean without any issues. Something really important when removing the valve covers, once again, which are kind of hard, you need to take in consideration that the upper bolts, by upper bolts I mean the bolts which is up here on this line, and the lower bolts is down here. So they are different. It's not bolts, it's nuts actually. This is the nuts. So the upper one, they are higher. Let me show you the difference. The upper one are higher and the lower one are shorter. You can distinguish them by the threads on 2 of the middle nuts. So once again, upper nuts higher, lower nuts shorter. So this is really important when you're assembling everything. Once again, what else? Yeah, I have removed the crankshaft pulley just by undoing these bolts, so it drops down right away. Also the water pump is removed. So to gain access to the last bolt of the water pump underneath here, you're going to need to remove the crankshaft pulley, because one of the bolts of the water pump is behind the crankshaft pulley. Either way, you're going to need to remove the crankshaft pulley. So yeah, this is the gasket for the Valvetronic. Yeah, I have removed the vacuum pump. We're going to change the O-rings on the vacuum pump. Not only this one, I know this is sellable, but the one which is on the cap, which you can use from M57, which I'm selling. I'm going to show you when it gets time for assembling the vacuum pump, what I mean. So tomorrow I'm going to try to figure out how to remove the valve covers. After that we're going to remove these covers on the timing chain on the front, and finally, hopefully, we're going to remove the main timing chain cover, so to uncover everything. Don't forget to remove all the antifreeze from this reservoir here, because when you remove the pipe on the front, all the antifreeze is going to get inside the engine. That's why you need to dry it up here as much as possible. And here probably we're going to need to remove the radiators, because the pipe is kind of long and we're going to need to take it out to the front. So we are not going to have enough room to take it out probably, so we're going to see, maybe we're going to remove the radiators, so to gain additional space, so to be able to remove it completely. Okay, so the valve covers are removed. It wasn't the easiest job, so I need to remove this camshaft sensor, so to gain a little bit more access to be able to remove it. This is the left one, and as you can see, as owner have replaced all the camshaft sensors with aftermarket. The only bolt that I was not able to show you is this one here. It's not a nut, it's a bolt, and yeah, it's going to stay in place. And once again, on the upper part of the valve cover you're going to have the longer nuts with the two nuts with threads on them here, and in the bottom you're going to have the shorter nuts. And this is the tunnels which are sealing the coils, so we're going to replace those. I always replace them. This is the original one, of course. We're going to need 8 of them, of course. I have removed already one of the timing chain covers on the left side where the vacuum pump sits. It's pretty easy, this one especially, but the other one, if you want to remove it, you're going to need some time to do it because of one bolt actually. Yeah, let me show you what I mean. So this is how the engine looks like. Actually, for 160,000 kilometers this engine doesn't look so clean, probably because of the quality of the engine oil or something like that. So this timing chain cover, so to be able to remove this timing chain cover, once again you're going to need to remove all the bolts on the front here. There are only bolts on the front, around 10, I don't know, but in the end you're going to left with this bolt which is behind this bracket here. And to be able to remove this bracket, first of all you're going to need to remove the alternator, of course, plus the hydraulic pump and some bolts. So some bolts, let me show you. This is the bolts which I have removed. There are different kind of them. Actually this bracket is also holding the oil core lines here. I have removed them, so to gain a little bit more access. But in the end, on this vehicle, you're going to left with one bolt which is covered from the front differential, which means we're going to need to remove the front differential. And to be able to remove the front differential, we're going to need to remove the front axle, plus the axles, of course. So yeah, this timing chain cover is going to take some time to be able to remove it because of this bracket. And still, I'm still holding up to not remove the whole engine. I have done it while it's in the car. Never have done it on a E53 actually. I have done it on E60, on E70, but E53 I have never done it, but it should not make any difference. It should work out as on the previous cars. So I'm going to try to do it while the engine is still in the car. I'm going to do my best. Yeah, we're going to need to remove the oil pans, of course, the bigger and the small oil pan, so to be able to remove the chains plus the oil pump chain, for which once again we're going to need to remove the front axle. So it does matter this bracket or not, still going to need to remove the front axle, so it's not big of a deal. I was planning to do it, but in this case now is going to be the time to do it, because once again the front axle is on our way. If you have only rear wheel drive car, like not in our case, you're probably not going to have this struggle, but when you have all-wheel drive, this is the case. So yeah, now I'm going to start removing the front axle, and when I get to some point I'm going to keep filming again. Just quick glance of the chain, it's not moving. We have one timing chain tensioner here and one, it's going to be hard to show you, but is behind these AC lines. And in the end of the day I have decided that we're going to remove the engine. You don't have to do it if you are doing only the timing chains, but because of the last conversation which I had with the owner, I have decided to remove it, because he told me that he wants to change the valve stem seals. And, as many of you know, on this engine this job is terrible, so it's going to take a lot of time to do it. Yeah, it looks a little bit dirty inside. It doesn't matter, the owner is taking care of it, but for some reason it's dirty. And so now I'm going to start with removing of the front covers. We're going to need to remove this cover, this cover to be able to remove all the timing components, to be able after that to remove the camshafts, the intake and the exhaust one, so to gain access to the valve stem seals. And just show you how the O-pens are looking like before I start disassembling the support of the front CV axle. From here, this is the front differential, which of course we're going to remove, and after that replace the seals on the axles. See, the struggle that I had was with this body, which once again the bolt which I was struggling to remove is right here behind the front differential. Once again, this is the bolt for which you're going to need to remove the front differential, so to be able to remove this whole console which is holding the alternator, and then you're going to be able to remove this front cover for the timing chains. So once again, if the engine is in the car, you're going to remove the front axle, after that the front differential with the CV axles of course, and then you're going to be able to remove this bracket here, which also is holding the two hoses for the engine oil cooler. And finally, after all the struggle, the bracket is removed. Here it is. This is how it looks like. As I told you, the last bolt here is removed, and yeah, we have a gasket behind. I don't remember did I order it. I am going to leave this bolt here. This is also holding the timing chain cover here, but I'm just going to leave it like that. This is the front differential once again. This is the support for the CV axle, the right one. Yeah, this is held only with 4 bolts. It's kind of heavy, so it's going to be a good idea if you are 2 people while removing it, but it's possible to do it by yourself. It's not so hard. So now I'm going to start removing the O-pen. To remove the O-pen, you're going to first remove the small O-pen, and after that the main O-pen, because behind this O-pen you're going to have some additional bolts which is holding the main O-pen. That's why you're going to need to remove first this, after that this. So just to show you, before removing the main O-pen, where are all the hidden bolts. So as you can see here, after the removal of the smaller O-pen right there. So as you can see here, we have 2, 3 on this side, and on the compressor side we have 2 down there and 3 here. So this is the hidden bolts. So I'm going to remove now the O-pen. So this uncovers the O-pump chain, as you can see. So here is the O-pump chain which we're going to replace. For this we're going to need to undo this knot. Now after we remove the compressor, the AC compressor, we're going to be able to finally remove the main timing chain cover, plus this cover also, yeah. So now we have access to everything to finally remove all the timing chain covers. So mistakes have been done. I have forgot to remove the central bolt for the crankshaft, and to be able to remove it, easier way to do it is to install this tool like that, and we're going to install the bolt here, so to hold it, counter hold it while I'm doing this bolt because it's really tight. So yeah, before removing the O-pen, the main O-pen, do this. I have installed 4 bolts, so to hold the O-pen in place and to not move it and to not break something, just to play it safely. And now I'm going to start the bolt here, plus 2 bolts, the original bolts from the crankshaft pulley, and I'm going to attempt to undo this bolt. Okay, so let's give it a try. I have tightened up all the bolts pretty much. For sure it's going to be hard. I'm going to use my professional extender for cases like this. Probably going to need my colleague to come and help me, because I'm going to lift up the whole engine. Yeah. Maybe going to be a good idea if you put something here. Let's try with a good old impact. How it goes. So if this didn't manage to do it, probably we're going to continue with the struggle with the extension. But yeah, when you install it like that, for sure you're going to reduce your power, because if you install the socket directly here, the impact going to have much more power, but I don't have 27mm for half saw or something like that. So let's give it a try. Okay, I'm not going to give so easy. I have bought new socket which is going to be direct fit on the impact gun. So this is not a review of the Milwaukee impact gun, but as you can see the camera won't focus. The battery is full. So let's see. Now let's see. It's my biggest impact is going to be capable of undoing this bolt. Okay, let's see, Milwaukee, what you're made of. Come on! Now the bolts are on my way. I was thinking about this. Okay, I'm going to remove them because it's an impact. It's not mandatory to have this in place. Okay, the special tool removed. So let's see what's going to happen. Woo! This is what I'm talking about. Okay, now let's try to remove this hub, crankshaft hub, something like that, adapter. Okay, it was quite stuck inside the crankshaft. This is how it looks like. And now we should be able to remove the whole timing chain cover, like so. Finally, after removing the timing chain cover, and you guys saw how much time and work involves of removing of this timing chain cover, quite a big job. In some cases you're going to need to do this only for changing this pipe here. There are still some people that are going to say put the cheapest one you're going to be able to find, it's going to work out. And I'm like, are you serious? Did you saw how much work is involving in removing this cover? I'm never going to put anything than OEM here, and this is right now kind of stuck. I'm going to need a better grip so to be able to remove it, but the removal is this side, and on some cars the radiators are going to be in your way and still not going to be able to remove it because they're going to hit the radiators and you're going to need to remove the radiators so to be able to remove and change this pipe. So this is how much time involved is this job to replace only this part, and this is why some people are installing telescopic types of coolant pipes, because you're going to need to remove only the intake manifold and the valley, the coolant valley, so to change it, but still I don't think they are reliable in long run. Here are the timing components, all of them. Let's see, do we have any date on them? They're going to be the original ones for sure. You can see everything OEM. Yeah, the engine is kind of dark inside as on the above. I'm going to try to clean it a little bit. Still, I'm not going to go crazy because I don't want all these chemicals to stay in the engine. So I'm going to try to clean it as good as possible without risking it. So the chain on this cylinder head side, let's see here. Yeah, it has some movement, but the tensioner is moving also when I'm moving this chain. Let's see. Oh yeah, here it even snap a tooth. Yeah. This is how bad this is it. I don't know how this was working, but yeah. Oh, this even break from the guide. As you can see here, this plastic is completely break down from here. So yeah, pretty bad. for sure. Doesn't look so promising. The owner was lucky actually that the engine didn't skip a tooth and he didn't damage the cylinder heads and the valves, because I haven't seen that bad in a long time, if I need to be honest. So this is one of the worst ones that I have seen, and still the tensioner is here, as you can see, the up one and the side one also installed. So I haven't removed the tensioners and you can see how bad it is. So yeah. Now let's continue disassembling everything, and after that I'm going to show you the new parts. I cannot believe that this is on 160,000 kilometers and to look like that. It's unbelievable. I cannot believe it. Okay guys, I had some struggle with removal of the timing components. Yeah, I didn't record it. I'm going to record it much more detailed when I start assembling it, and it's going to be vice versa. That's why I didn't record it. But after that you're going to see how everything goes. But the biggest issue when you are removing the timing chains on this engine is going to be on this side, on this cylinder head side. So this is the passenger side if you are talking about left-hand drive car. Here you're going to have no issues. But here, by the manual, BMW is stating that you're going to need to remove this cylinder head, which I don't do. The main reason that they advise you to remove the cylinder head is because of this timing chain guide. So let me show you. So this is installed here like that, and to be able to remove it, it's not so easy because, let me take this pin. So here we have one guiding pin like that, as we can see. Actually the timing chain goes through the pin behind the guide and this pin. It goes through here, which doesn't matter right now. So the issue is when this is installed in place like that, here is hot with one bolt, and here the guiding pin is tightened up on this thread. So most of the guides are hot with two bolts and you can remove them easily, but this one, to be able to remove it, you're going to need to undo this with a wrench from here, little by little. Yeah, the guide is going to twist a little bit, but you're going to be able to remove it. Still, the thread is kind of long. This is how you're going to be able to remove it. It's possible to do it. Like that, I'm not going to be needed to remove the cylinder head. This is how I have done it. And if the same guide was given to me to be able to install it back in place, I was not going to be worried. Actually, this is the bolt which is holding it here. But this is the new guide which came, which is much more longer and beefier. So it's not going to twist so much like this one. This was hard enough to remove it, but when installing it, it's going to be extra hard because you need to guide the thread to be straight when you tighten up and still twist this beefy guide. This is the biggest issue right now. If you want to be as manual states, you're going to need to remove the cylinder head and then it's going to be easy to install it. But now the only way to install this back without removing the cylinder head is to reduce the threads here with probably maybe 4 threads, something like that. I hope it's going to be enough. Most of the guides are updated. After that I'm going to show you the difference between all of them. So this is the biggest issue with this timing chains when you're installing it. This guide here, how you're going to be able to install it. So you're going to have two choices: either remove the cylinder head or either reduce the thread on this pin. Little bit of side quest. I'm changing the valve stem seals as I told you. This is how I'm doing it. I'm just threading a tool which is held to the spark box and doing cylinder by cylinder. I'm just putting the piston on the top dead center, and after that I'm doing it just to show you the difference between the old ones and the new ones. So this is the parts which are on the driver side. This is how I'm removing this was the intake side. You're just going to need to undo the nuts on the outer. You should not undo the bolts here and here because everything's going to fly away. The lifters, the rocker arms, and one old and one new valve stem seal. So this is the difference in the diameter. So yeah, for sure this car was leaking from the valve stem seals. It's not a bad call for sure from the owner. I'm going to continue disassembling and change all the valve stem seals, and hopefully after 1 year I'm going to be ready. And one more side quest. The side quests are taking much more time than the main job that we were planning. So the owner decided to check the bearings because of the condition inside the engine. He was kind of concerned that there will be some wear because of the poor servicing of the engine. This is the bearings. As we can see, the main bearings are not so good. Some copper exposed, as we can see on some of them. This is the conrod bearings. Interestingly enough, the caps most of the time has less wear than the conrod side, but in this case these are looking much more worse than the conrod side. I'm going to show you after a second how the conrods are looking like, the bearings on the conrods. But interestingly enough, because this is one of the first N62 versions installed ever in this X5 E53, probably that is why we have some differences. So just to show you how to be able to find what bearings we're going to need to install. So this is the crankshaft. Let me zoom in. As we can see, number 2, this is the bearings that we're going to need to install, and as we know from the other engines, there will be 3 colors. So number 1 yellow, 2 green and 3 violet. So we need to check on our crankshaft what numbers we have, but probably because this is one of the first N62s, don't have numbers, we have letters, and most of the time this letter is obvious enough means yellow. So number 1. So we're going to have 5 yellow bearings on the cups because we have only yellows here. 5 yellows I mean, and we have 5 cups. So we're going to need 5 yellow bearings, and we need to find out what bearings we're going to need on the cylinder block. Here is where it's supposed to be. This is on the gearbox side. So once again, Y for yellow, G for green and V for violet. And let's see what we have. So yeah, 5 G's. So which means we're going to have only green bearings on the cylinder block and only yellows on the cups. Let me rotate the engine and I'm going to show you that the bearings on the cylinder box are looking pretty good. So as we can see, they look almost like a brand new ones. So as we can see, we have much less wear on the conrod side, which most of the cases is the opposite. You're going to have more wear on the conrod side rather on the cup, like here. So yeah, we're going to need to change some bearings. Maybe I'm going to talk to the owner, but these bearings on the cylinder block are looking pretty good. Maybe we're going to change only these ones on the crankshaft. So we're going to take only yellow ones here, and these ones I'm going to check which one were they. And after all the struggle, we can finally remove the pipe. Yeah, I have already unlocked it. That's why it's so easy to remove it. And just imagine right now, if you have the radiators somewhere here, how much further you need to take it out so to be able to remove it from the cylinder box. So for sure, pretty much the front should came out. As you can see how much it gets out. And yeah, even if you cut it, you are not going to be able to reinstall the new one, because yeah, this is how much. And most of the time this seal on the front is one piece with the pipe, but this is cracked here. So let me show you what is the new part that we're going to install. So here is the new pipe, as we can see. Yeah, of course I don't come with the O-ring, which is installed in this groove here. I have bought it. This is the new one. The part number, I don't know why I'm showing you the part number, because if you start doing this you're going to research by yourself, but this is the O-ring which is sitting in this groove here. And also we're going to replace this, because now is the perfect time to do it, because the accessibility to this car here is terrible. You're going to need to remove the flywheel, and you can imagine, to be able to remove the flywheel you're going to need to remove the gearbox and so on. So that's why we are replacing this whole car, because it comes with this sealing here, sealing compound, which is one-time use. So that's why we are replacing the whole cover, and I think it wasn't crazy expensive, but I highly recommend you to go with OEM one, because once again, if this don't seal good enough, you're going to have really bad time after that fixing this. Okay, so I cleaned up as good as possible the place where the O-ring of the new coolant pipe is going to be installed. Once again, as you can see, this is cast with the coolant pipe. It's not apart from it like the one that we have removed. So I cleaned it with a Scotch-Brite as good as possible, and now I'm going to install the pipe. As you can see here, I have installed the new O-ring, and now I'm just going to place it like so. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of silicone grease here, just for easier installation. So, as you can see back here, the pipe goes through the O-ring. I'm going to try to press it just a smidge more, but I think this is the maximum that it can go through. So yeah, I think this is the maximum. And yeah, even if this is not, when we reinstall the timing chain cover, the pipe is going to be pressed in here, and this is going to push it further, if it's required, of course. So for now, I'm going to leave it like that. I'm just going to reinstall the cover, this cover, the new one, and just to be sure that everything here is installed, because now we're going to need to wait for the new bearings, because I was not planning to change the bearings and I don't have them. So we're going to need to wait several days until they came, and I'm not going to be able to do anything else than this. Just a quick look on the difference between the chains. So the both chains, this one and this one, they are the same. The left and the right cylinder head is using the same timing chain, so the part numbers on the both chains is the same. That's why we are comparing only with one new one. So we have made them even here, and here is what is the difference between the old ones and the new one. So for sure there is a difference. Most of the time this is not going to be the most relevant check, but just show that all of them are touching the wrench, just show how bad it was, the old ones. Okay, so after waiting for some time for the new bearings, here they are. We're going to replace the big end bearings and the main bearings. We have only 5 main bearing caps. Here are the new bolts for the main bearings, and these few packages are for the con rods. Okay, so I have checked the clearance on the crankshaft. As we can see on all the bearings, I have checked them. This is how the new bearings look like, with Y for yellow. All of them are yellow, as I showed you earlier in the video. So let me show you how much is the clearance. So we're going to start with the first one, first main bearing. So it's smaller than 0.025 but bigger than 0.038, so it's somewhere in between. Pretty much all of them are like that. All of them are smaller than 25 and bigger than 38. The wear, or the condition, actually is the same. Oh, yeah, we don't have wear on the crankshaft. The crankshaft looks pretty good, so I don't think we're going to have issue with it. Let's see this one. This is a little bit closer to 0.25 but still smaller, but much bigger than 0.38. So we are somewhere in the middle, I guess 0.30, which is perfectly in spec. We should not have issues with these bearings. So yeah, now I'm going to check the same for the con rod bearings. We're going to measure all of them. It's much more time consuming for them, but this is what it is. Here, this is the part number for the bearings. Yeah, we're going to change only the bearings on the caps. We are not going to change the bearings which are on the con rods, because they are looking pretty much like a brand new ones. There is no point of changing those. So we're going to change only this, because they have some wear on them. Because I don't want to make it super detailed video, because I wanted to do this video mainly for the timing chains. But just a quick hint, when you torque up for the final time the new bolts here for the main bearings, the torque spec is 20 Nm plus 100 degrees, and after that you're going to need to tighten up these sleeves which are, let me try to show you. As you can see, they are moving forward and backward. When you are installing the caps, you need to push them up as possible, and when you are done with tightening up all of the bolts of the main caps, then you're going to need to rest in position like that on the both sides. So this is the other side. As you can see, the movement is not a lot, like that. And so to be sure that it's laying where it's supposed to be, we have a torque spec, which is 6 Newton meters. So let's see, is it going to move at all? Yeah, it moved a little bit. 6 Newton meters is almost none. So let's see this one. Yeah, this almost did not move. So I'm going to need to do this for all of them. The sleeve inside is 6 Newton meters and the bolt which goes in is 34 Newton meters. So the first two coiled bearings, this is the clearance. So a little bit above 0.050, roughly 45, let's say. Both of them is the same. So I'm going to do the same for all of the rest. If I see something different than this, I'm going to film it. And pretty much everything is tightened up, the conrods and the main bearings. Just to show you where the 4 Torx headed bolts are going: here, 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 and here. So all the rest is going to be for the body of the oil pump, which is here, and this is all the bolts, all the rest 6 bolts which are going to hold the body of the oil pump. So that's why the pattern is like so. Once again, 34 Newton meters for these bolts. So now I'm going to install the oil pump, but before that, for this, which is connecting this part of the oil pump to the oil filter housing, I think was somewhere here, there is O-ring underneath. So I'm going to try to remove this from the cylinder block and we're going to replace the O-ring. Also, we have one more O-ring here. This inside the body. Oops. So in the channel. So we have in total 2 O-rings which we're going to replace. So there they are, both of them, and also one more here, this green one, which is for this piece. Okay, after auto struggle, I managed to remove this connection point. The other O-ring is once again in a groove. I have changed it already. It is sitting in the same groove as on the oil pump housing. Okay, so I managed to find the O-ring here, the green one. So this goes inside. I have put some silicone grease. This is what you're seeing here. So to be sure that it's going to go nice and easy without putting some pressure on the O-ring, I have put some silicone here also, grease. So now we need to guide this tube in its hole. And that. And now, as you can see, we're going to need to press in the oil pump in the O-ring like that. So now everything is flat. Let me show you. Once again, I was talking about the Torx bolts because you can see where the housing is aligning. We have 2 Torx bolts in these holes, and here the oil filter housing is flat with the main bearing caps. Once again, this bolt here, and yeah, the last one is here. As we can see, the oil pump housing is sitting flat on the caps on these places. That's why you're going to need to install the bolts on these places. I cannot say I'm 100% sure on all the N62s is going to be like that. Always check your oil filter housing, how it sits. Now actually I have bought this oil filter housing pickup tube, new one. This is it. So this is how it looks like. It's always a good idea to change it. It comes with the gasket, which is this green one, and all the rest bolts here for the oil filter housing should be torqued to 34 Newton meters as these bolts here. So now I'm going to torque them. So this is the oil supply tube. It should be pointing inwards. because you can install it on the other way. But pretty much this is all the things that you're going to require for the timing change up. This is the 3 chains. The both longer chains are actually the same part number. The both tensioners once again are the same. We have, I think they were 4, actually 6, because we have these 2 also timing chain guides with some gaskets on them, which are sold separately. This is the gear for the oil pump, the gear for the crankshaft hub, the 4 bolts for the camshafts, and this is the main bolt for the crankshaft hub once again. But yeah, I have bought even this dowel pin, which is locating this crankshaft hub in place. This is the timing chain oil nozzle. We have some parts here, and also here. So if I see that I have forgot something, I'm going to find it here probably, but we have a lot of more parts stacked here. So now I'm going to start assembling the timing components little by little. I think I have bought O-rings for this timing chain guide support, so I'm going to try to find them. Okay, so because most of the time this crankshaft hubs are really stuck in the crankshaft, I'm going to use this bracket to try to pull it out. Okay, I'm going to give it a try with the impact. Okay, so I'm going to need to remove the bolt. So I'm just going to put this bolt in. It's much more smaller than the original bolt. This is just to continue pressing out the hub. It should do that magic. As once again, it's with a shim. Okay, so it did work. So yeah, by hand it's going to be really hard to remove this, but with this tool it's kind of easy. Just to show you why it's a good idea to change your dowel pin. As you can see, it has seen some beating up. So yeah, it's not so expensive. Just change it to play it on the safe side. I'm going to compare them. So the both of them side by side, as you can see, the wear out where the crankshaft hub have beaten up in the ears. And let's see, with the new dowel pin, is it easier to install it? Because when the dowel pin is curved, that's why I can make the crankshaft hub to stuck up, and as you can see, it slides up much more easier until here. So let's try with the rubber hammer. So let's see if this is going to work out. I found out this from an old bearing. Okay, now the hardest part. I have just put the timing chains here. It's not going to be crucial right now, the thing that we're going to do, and the thing that we're going to do is the hardest part of everything, because once again we are not removing the cylinder heads. So probably you guys remember that we had the biggest issue of removing this timing chain guide, which should go something like that. As you guys saw, we need to remove this pin from here, so to be able to remove the guide. Right now it's easy. It's going to be a little bit harder when we need to install it like that. So it's going to be something like that, and I'm going to need to try to tighten up this pin on the guide without cross-threading the thread here in the cylinder block. So the thing that I have done, I have reduced the threads on the pin which is holding the guide Previously, if I'm not remembering wrong, it was somewhere around 19 millimeters, and now is somewhere around close to 12, so something around that. So we have reduced the length around 6 or 7 millimeters from the original thread. It should be good enough. I'm going to put some Loctite on the thread, so to be a little bit more secured, and I'm going to try to tighten it up. I believe it was somewhere here, if I'm not mistaken wrong. So I'm going to give it a try, but I'm not going to film this in camera because it's going to be a little bit of struggle to show you. I have replaced these O-rings here, as I told you. There are 2 O-rings here, they are brand new ones. But now let's try to install the guide and we'll come back when hopefully I'm ready. Okay, so I managed to aim it in the hole, on the thread, sorry. So hopefully you guys are seeing, but this is it. So now I'm going to try to tighten it up, but first of all I'm going to put once again thread locker, and don't forget to aim the chain behind the pin like that, because after that you're not going to be able to do it. So do that before, try to aim the thread here. Okay, so I have managed to tighten it up. It wasn't so hard that I was expecting. So as you can see, it's tightened up completely. I have decided to install the oil nozzle for the timing chain is behind the guide. So it's tightened to 10 Newton meters, the bolt for the nozzle. I'm just going to place the bolt, the other bolt which is holding it, like that, so to be out of our way. After that I'm going to torque it to spec. I need to check how much it was. So I'm just going to take the chain up here. So let's tie something like that. Hopefully it's going to hold. And now, once again, new O-rings, and I have lubed them with some silicone grease. And now once again we're going to need to somehow install it while twisting the guide. Yeah, like that. So it's flat, and yeah, it moves nice and snug. Okay, so now let's continue with this timing chain guide, which should go from here to this thread here. Underneath is the thicker sleeved bolt, like this. We have 2 of them actually, they are the same. So I'm just going to place it like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to be able to put the chain after that. So I can tighten, and one more bolt, which is the same as on this timing chain guide up here. So these bolts are the same. For now I'm not torquing up nothing, I'm just going to place everything and then I'm going to torque them to spec. I have just torqued the oil nozzle. So let's take the chain. Okay, now I can tighten it up back. Now I can install the other one. Sorry guys if I'm getting on your way from time to time, but while I'm working it's kind of hard to check everything. So this should be installed on this thread here, like that. Once again, the other thicker sleeved bolt. As you can see guys, on this cylinder head, on the left side, on the driver's side, it's much more easier than these 2 timing chain guides, for which BMW wants you to remove the cylinder head, which we are not doing. So yeah, this is it. This is all the timing chain guides installed in place. Okay, so I'm going to tighten up all of them to 22 Newton meters. So in total 4 bolts. Okay, so now we're going to install the upper timing chain guides. They are left and right one. As you can see, we have gaskets for here, which we're going to install of course. So let me place them on the stand, but actually we need to install this with this bolt here for this area for the oiling of the cylinder head. As you can see how it's looking underneath, so it's a little bit different than the usual BMW bolt. So this is the one of it. The other one, this is the other one, the longer one. So this is the other ones. This is the part number is actually the same. They haven't replaced it, so it should be tilted like that. Yeah, if we put the other one, yeah, the other one is going to be tilted. Yeah, actually I cannot even install the other one, so you cannot mess them up for sure. You can install only the right one in the proper position. Okay, so I'm going to locate the gasket here. So nice and almost flat, but yeah, when we tighten up the bolts, it's going to be nice and even. Let's start like that. First, the longer bolt. And now, before installing the hollow bolt, we need to place the oil rail on the top of the valves. Okay. This bolt goes through this like that. The hollow bolt. So now I'm going to install the valve units on the camshafts. So we have one on the intake side and one on the exhaust side. As you can see on the right cylinder head, on the passenger side cylinder head, if you have a left hand drive, the sprocket is going to look a little bit different, because here this sprocket is rotating the vacuum pump. That's why it's looking like that, just to compare it with the Vanus gear on the other cylinder head. So this is the other exhaust one. As you can see, it's totally different looking, so you cannot mess them up. Of course, we're going to replace the bolts. These bolts are one-time use. I know you can reuse them, I have done it, I'm not going to lie, but in the perfect case scenario, you're going to want to replace them. Just going to show you why. Once again, showing this is the old and the new one, to show you how longer the old one have gotten. I have placed them like that, and you can see how much longer is the old one than the original one. So once again, this bolt is one-time use. Probably you can reuse it, but it's always safer to use a new bolts. So now I'm going to place all the 4 gears, and I'm going to just finger tight the 4 bolts which are holding them, and from there on we're going to continue underneath, because we need to install the timing chain cover, so to be able to lock up the crankshaft in the proper position, so to time up the whole engine. Okay, so now I'm going to install the chain for the oil pump. I have bought a new sprocket for the oil pump, and there is no forward and backward position of this. I always place the forward position where the labels are, so hopefully you guys are going to see it, but you can see some labels and here we don't have, so I always place it like that. Yeah, I know there is some markings on this chain, but in the case of the oil pump, it doesn't matter how you're going to install it. Probably BMW is making this chain for some other engines with some balance shafts or stuff, but in our case, it doesn't matter how we're going to install it. So Now I'm going to the screwdriver to rotate a little bit the shaft. Okay. The nut is normal thread. Previously it was placed like that, so I'm going to place it the same way. So let's give it a try. Yeah. So let me figure out something. Oh, fine. So with the two bolts behind and someone holding it with a screwdriver. Okay, now I'm going to install the rear crankshaft seal. It came like this from the factory. As we can see, we have a installation sleeve for the crankshaft, so to not damage the other part of the seal. So it came like that. As you can see, we have 8 bolts. 2 of them are different. These two, they are a little bit longer. The longer bolts should be installed here and here, so on the both ends. So now I'm going to try to aim it and install it. Okay, so let's give it a try. It's kind of tight because of the engine stand, but I think it's doable. So like so. Okay. I'm going to check the surface of the seal. Is it everything as it's supposed to be, and I'm going to install the bolts. So I think I'm going to manage to torque the bolts. The torque spec for all of them, all the 8 of them, is 10 Nm. So I'm going to be able to fit the torque wrench there. So yeah, I'm not going to film all of them because you're not seeing anything, but I'm going to torque them and we're going to continue. Okay, so actually before installing the timing chain cover, I have decided that there is no issue to install right now the tensioners for the chain. So, once again, they're the same part number, so no matter where you're going to install them, both of them are tensioning the plastic guide, this black one. As every BMW tensioner, chain tensioner, I'm going to tighten up this to 70 Nm. So yeah, we have removed the slack of the chain. Still, those are finger tight, so we can rotate the camshafts without moving the valve gears. So I have cleaned up the timing chain cover. It's pretty much ready to be installed. But before that, I'm going to install the front crankshaft seal, which came like that from the factory, from BMW. So it's, let's say, a double crankshaft seal, so as we can see how it rotates separately. So I'm going to install it before installing the timing chain cover, because now it's a little bit more easier than when it's installed on the engine. So I'm going to press it in and we're going to install the cover. And for those of you that are wondering, the BMW manual states that when installing the crankshaft hub, you should warm it up to 60 degrees and using some glove, then you're going to install it. But as you saw guys, it's not so hard to use just a bolt and push it with some sleeve. Okay, so the crankshaft seal is installed. Yeah, I have cleaned up as good as possible this timing chain cover. It was baked so much with oil, but after 1 hour of cleaning and I don't know how many chemicals, this is the best I can go. I needed to show you how it was before. Okay, so this, how it was called, something like aluminum shield for the timing chain. I'm going to torque it to 10 Nm. Okay, like that. We're going to have 3 gaskets. One is here, and this is going to be here, and this is here. I'm going to put some silicone on the edges, on the cylinder head, here, 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 and here. And yeah, of course, when I'm starting to open, I'm going to put also some silicone on these 2 edges. So these gaskets are mirrored, they are the same. The guiding sleeve is holding them in place. Also these teeth on the end are the same on the top, so they're getting inside the cylinder head gasket, that's why it's staying like that without fitting anything else. This gasket is held on this o-ring on the top. Hopefully it's not going to fall down. It's all the bolts, here they are. They were 11 or 12 in total, so this is the normal type of bolts, and we have one more here which is holding this bracket. I have changed already this gasket, which is going here on the side. Also I have changed the o-rings on this flange for the oil passages, so 2 new o-rings here. So yeah, let's try to install it. Okay, so I have placed silicone on all the 4 angles to the cylinder head side. So now I can attempt to install the cover. Okay, I think I got it. So this gasket is not going anywhere. The others look good also. So I'm going to try to hammer it down underneath in the sleeves which are holding the gasket, just to check that the cylinder head gasket is not bended or something like that. Yeah, it looks okay. Okay, just show you, all the gaskets are on their places, as you can see on the side of this and here. So yeah, I'm going to start all the bolts and we're going to torque them. Just to show something that is kind of important, after installing all the bolts, we're going to lift up with one hollow hole here, for which we're going to need to use this bolt here. So it's holds in this flange, in this hole here. So one hand is kind of hard, but as we can see, if we install it in the guiding sleeves like that, it gets right in this hole. And yeah, you cannot install any other bolt than this, because you're not going to have enough space to install any socket inside. So this is the only bolt you can use for here. Okay, so all the bolts on the timing chain cover should be tightened up to 22 Newton meters. So as I showed you, after we tightened up these bolts, we're going to install the other flange for this bolt. But we need to hurry up because we have put some silicone and it's going to dry out, and it's not going to each job if we do this slowly. So I think they were 11 bolts, something like that. So once again, new gasket installed. Okay, the gasket was getting a little bit on the way of the bolt, so I needed to push it a little bit more, so to be able the thread to catch up the thread of the bolt, but now it goes nice and easily. These bolts are attached, so I should be free to tighten up this bolt. Once again, 22 Newton meters. Okay, like so. Okay, so after the installation of the timing chain cover, now I'm going to continue with the installation of the open. I have put some silicone on the ends where it's supposed to be put it. And this is the new gasket. The blue thingies, the blue silicone things are going downwards like that, and depending how you're looking like. But it should be like that. Okay, I have cleaned up the open already as good as possible, so let's install it. Oh, actually I forgot to install the gasket for the oil filter housing, so just a second. So this gasket, just don't forget it. Okay, so let's install it. Once again, this should be installed before installing the open. And as we can see, we have this lip here, which actually this is going to seal up, and this should point upwards. As we can see underneath, we don't have it, so this should point upwards. Like, yeah, what do I don't like. Like that. And now we can install once again the open. Okay, like that. So I'm going to torque it in a cross pattern, or as good as possible cross pattern. I almost forgot these 4 bolts, which should be on the top of the timing cover, which is connecting the cylinder head with the timing cover. So let's install a new oil filter. This should just click in place like that, it's not going anywhere. So actually I always put some silicone grease on the O-ring, so to be sure that it's not going to twist while tightening it up. Let's put some assembly loop in the oil pump pickup tube, so I'm going to put a little bit here. So to be sure that the oil pump is going to be looped as good as possible, because now we're going to install the final open and we are not going to have any more access to the oil pump. So the new gasket, like that. And actually I have decided to send the open, as I'm going to show you the front suspension, which we have sandblasted and painted. So yeah, the open was really rusted out, so that's why we decided to paint it. We're going to use new bolts for it. Okay, so now we're going to install the oil level sensor. There is only one way how you can install it, like that. Between new gasket here, essential. So it goes like that, and the nuts for it. Once again, we have decided to buy new nuts because the original ones were really rusted out, so that's why new nuts. Okay, like that. I have bought a new oil drain plug. And pretty much we are done with the assembly of the underneath of the engine. So now we're going to continue with the timing of the timing chains. So this is the timing tool which we're going to use. So now we're going to install this crankshaft, let's call it hub, which we're going to help with this part of the timing tool, which is going to go like that. So this is for the working of the camshafts. This is for the timing chain tensioner replacement, but I have never seen a difference when I see just the regular tensioner versus this one, which you need to torque most of the time with some 2.5 Newton meters or even less. I don't know, but not only on these engines but on 6-cylinder engines and stuff, I have never seen the difference when I'm using the regular tensioner, even when it's not filled with oil. Pretty much I'm getting the same results. I have tried several times using the two which is looking like that on the place of the tensioner and the regular tensioner. I always get the same results. That's why I'm not using this. I know someone is going to cry in the comments, but not big of a deal. Actually, yeah, as usual I have forget about this. This is going to be installed on the place of this bolt. So we're going to need to undo this bolt. It was this, I believe, which is going to hold this walking plates for the camshafts, which will go, yeah, this sleeve. We're going to use it with this hub. I'm going to show you after a second. This is the bolt which goes here. This is the pin for the crankshaft walking, which we're going to do it on the crankshaft pulley. This is some degrees when we're tightening up the crankshaft. This is the socket for the crankshaft bolt, which I'm not sure we're going to see how we're going to use it. Let's try to install it. As we remembered, this came out kind of hard, so I'm going to try to put a little bit of grease inside, so to make the job a little bit easier, hopefully. But I'm kind of doubtful that is going to be the case. Yeah, we need to iron up this channel with the dowel pin, of course, because if we don't do it and start tightening up the bolt, we can ruin up everything. Yeah, the dowel pin lines up with this pin for the crankshaft pulley, so you can time it by that as good as possible. Okay guys, sorry for not filming this, but I need to figure out how to do it properly. But it wasn't so hard actually. I started rotating once again with this bolt the whole hub, and while I was on roughly close to this point, I started hammering down once again until it gets in a little bit more. Now, as we can see, we are flush with the timing chain cover, so for sure we are engaged. I'm sure that the dowel pin is inside the crankshaft hub. So once again, this, as we can see, this channel here is because of this pin, locating pin. So let's see how we're going to do it. Once again, this with the cone inside goes underneath here. So now let's locate these two in place with 4 bolts. Now these two with the cone goes underneath here, and this bolt is going to locate it in place. It is going to ensure us that it's not going to skip a tooth. So let's tighten up these bolts. I'm going to tighten up this also, like that. Okay, so new bolt for the crankshaft. I'm going to put some oil on the threads, because this bolt is torqued a lot. As you can see how massive is this bolt. Probably I'm not going to be able to tighten it up fully right now, because on the engine stand we're going to break something. So I'm going to try to tighten it up the Newton meters plus the first degrees, and the rest probably we're going to do it, I don't know, maybe in the car, because once again my engine stand is going to break down probably with so much tension. So hopefully this socket is going to go through the bolts. So the first torque spec is 100 Newton meters. This is the easiest part. Yeah, 100 Newton meters is almost known, and even now the engine stand is suffering. We're going to use this tool for measuring how much degrees we have made. It has a magnet behind, so it sits like that. And so the torque spec, the rest of the torque spec is 3 times 60 degrees, which is, believe me guys, a lot. So like that, it should be fine. Let's give it a try. This should be easy. For sure this is going to be the only, we're going to do only this and the rest we're going to be in the car. Okay, so this is the first 60 degrees. We need to do it 2 more times, but for sure I'm not doing it on the engine stand. I don't want to damage anything. I'm going to do a marking here for me to not forget. I'm going to make it like that, just to remind myself that I haven't done it. If you're doing it in the car, it's going to be much more stable. You're not risking to damage something, but in my case I'm not going to risk it. I don't want to damage my engine stand, so let's remove this and continue with the timing. Okay, so to be able to continue, we still need to install the crankshaft pulley, for which we probably going to have after that issue to make it work with this bolt, but that's why I'm going to install only 4 bolts holding it in. So this is the pulley. Once again, we have a hole here which should align with this one, pretty obvious. So it should be like that. There is a spacer which was like that. There is no hole for this spacer. And let's install 4 bolts here. We're going to need this crankshaft pulley because we need to time up the crankshaft with it. This is how it is on this engine. I don't remember, but maybe it's going to be on our way for the water pump, but I'm going to remove it either way. Okay, so as you can see, I have to hook up the crankshaft. It goes through the crankshaft pulley here, pretty obvious. So right now we are at top dead center on cylinder number 1. We're going to need to time up the camshafts, of course. For this, where it was, I'm going to use this 21mm wrench, on which we can rotate the camshafts from here, which is the working position. It's not big of a deal, guys. You're not going to break anything. I know some people are going to say that you need to rotate them from here, but not big of a deal. This is a camshaft. It's not made of plastic, so you can rotate it from here easily on the both camshafts. Yeah, this is the exhaust one is spring loaded, so it's a little bit more hard to do it, but still I'm going to show you that it's not impossible. Of course, the same on this, and yeah, this is spring loaded also. So it's going to be a little bit more hard, but not big of a deal. So the important thing is this notches here. As we can see on the both camshafts, we have this which should be pointing upwards when we are starting the tool. This we have 2 points on the intake one, once again on the other cylinder head, once again 2 dots on the intake, and these lines on the exhaust. On all the 4 camshafts, they should be pointing like that. Yeah, right now they are not exactly on point, but be a little bit more straight. Something like that. At least this where the tool is going should be a little bit more straight. You can see on the right cylinder head how the lobes on the cylinder number 1 should be pointing, as we can see on the exhaust and on the intake, and on the other cylinder head, as we can see, they are pointing the opposite side. So outwards here are inwards. So now I'm going to need to remove this bolt once again. So this pipe is not on our way, so we can leave it here. We're just going to need to remove the both bolts here and here, so to be able to install the tool, this tool, which is going to hold the working tools for the camshafts in place while we are torquing down the bolts on the front. Actually, let me show you. Once again, we're going to have 2 tools for working the camshafts. I believe the one with, I have written them up. So the one with the dot is for the intake camshafts on the both cylinder heads, and the one without the hole here is for the both exhaust ones. So yeah, you cannot mess them up, it's literally impossible. Let's say this is for the exhaust one, and if you place them, as you can see on the intake, it's far away from the cylinder head side, so pretty obviously you cannot use it here. So counterintuitive. As we can see, if we place the right tool for the intake, if we place it here, as we can see, it's aligned with the cylinder head on the both sides. But of course, we're going to need to rotate it a little bit, so to be able to make it flat on the both sides on the cylinder head. So give me a second. We're going to start with the exhaust one on the left cylinder head. So we're going to need to rotate it a little bit. Once again, this spring loaded camshaft, so it's a little bit more trickier. Okay, so let's give it a try. I'm going to try to rotate it a little bit. Okay, like that's going to work out with a little bit jiggly biggly, with a little bit of moving backward and forward. Yeah, it's flat on the both sides. Let me show you. So as we can see, flat on this end and flat on this end. So to once again go in this hole here, on which we have removed the bolt. I have removed the bolt, not you guys, I have removed it. I know. So we're going to install this tool just to be sure that the box is not going anywhere while tightening up the bolt on the front. Actually the tool have gotten too forward. I need to push it a little bit backward because, let me show you, the alignment is a little bit off. That's why I'm going to hit it with the rubber hammer. This is the things that people are not showing you when they are doing attacking videos. All these little bit struggles. But I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you. Okay, now it's aligning perfect. Now it's cold. Let me show you once again. As you can see, flat here and flat on this side. So now we should be safe to tighten up the bolt on the camshaft, on the first camshaft. So let's tighten it up to 80 Newton meters. So at least we don't have the grease here, which is kind of scary because 80 Newton meters, I know it's not a lot, but hopefully BMW will have calculated this. Yeah, if you have the bolt stretched out. Okay, now I'm going to remove the block for the exhaust camshaft and going to install the one for the intake one. So this is the intake one, which should be a little bit easier because we don't have a spring-loaded camshaft. So once again, flat on the both sides. Let's reinstall the tool for holding it in place like that, and tighten up the bolt for the intake one. Once again, 80 Newton meters. Let's recheck this one. Yeah, still doesn't move. So yeah, it seems fine. Just to show you that we are flat here and here. As you can see, let's zoom in, completely flat. Now I'm going to remove the tool and we're going to proceed with the other cylinder head, of course. So let's quickly remove it. Go on the other side. So here once again, as we can see, the two dots here and the lines on the exhaust one. So let's start with the intake here. Pretty much, in my opinion, doesn't matter with whom we go to start with. Okay, it's flat on the both sides. Once again, the tool for making sure that it's not going to move anywhere. Just to check. Yeah, let's tighten up this bolt. Okay, 80 Newton meters, and for those of you that have watched some interesting torque wrenches videos, if you torque up the wrench on the handle holding it here, you're going to interrupt your reading, so always torque it on the end of the lever. Okay, so after tightening up the intake camshaft, let's continue with the last one, the exhaust. And struggle a little bit with it because of the spring pressure, but as we saw, it's not impossible. Here even it's much more easier. So yeah, like that. So now let's start this. Once again, flat on the both ends. Actually here wants a little bit. Now it's flat. Yeah, for sure. So it wanted a little bit. And it's not going anywhere now. This is the final bolt. The hub which is rotating the vacuum pump. Okay, so pretty much all the 4 camshafts and the crankshaft are timed up. Now I'm going to remove the timing tool here and we're going to rotate the crankshaft 2 times. We're going to reinstall all the timing tools and see is everything okay or not. Okay, so let's start with this one. So this is the exhaust camshaft on the right cylinder head. As we can see, flat here and flat on this side. Actually BMW has some recommendations that it can be lifted a little bit, I believe around 0.5 millimeters, something like that. In our case it's flat. Let's see the once again, as you can see, the lines here and the dots here. So as you can see, flat here. Yeah, it's flat. And here, let's go on the other side. Once again, this is for the intake camshaft. So as you can see, I don't know why camera is filming it like that, but it's completely flat. Maybe because of the shadows, but here. So on this side, as you can see, once again flat, and the last camshaft, the exhaust on the left cylinder head, which made us the biggest trouble. And as you can see, here on this side and on this side we are flat. So pretty much the 4 camshafts and the crankshaft is locked in place. We can rotate it several more times to be sure that everything is fine, but there is no point of it. So after timing up the engine, now we're going to proceed with the closure of everything else. So first of all, of course, we're going to start with the front timing chain covers, for which I have bought a gasket, of course. So it should hold like that, hopefully not like the over timing chain cover, which was a disaster. So as we can see, this is the right timing chain cover. You can recognize it by the hole for the vacuum pump. You cannot mess them up. It's pretty obvious where each one goes, and actually I think the bolt pattern is different on the both cars, so even if you want and try to mess them up, it's going to be almost impossible. So for those of you that remember, we're going to have different plates around the bolts of the covers. In this case, oops, we have one plate which was like that. Actually we have 2 longer bolts. Let me check here. The 2 longer bolts are on the both top positions. Yeah, on not on every N62 is going to be like this, of course. I talk about the plates, probably the bolts, I think they were the same. The both long bolts are on the top, so this is obvious, but the plates probably are different on the, let's say on the E60 or E70, doesn't matter. Okay, so let's torque the bolts. The torque spec for all of them are 10 Newton meters, as all the M6 bolts on BMWs. Okay, so let's continue with the other side. Once again, the gasket. The gaskets are once again different on the both sides, so you cannot mess them up. The cover, I have cleaned it up as good as possible. So yeah, I was wondering, so this is going to leave us to install it, it's not big of a deal. Once again, we have two sleeves here, and here we're going to install the longer bolts. So we had two brackets, if I'm not mistaken wrong. The first one should be, yeah, I think it was here. And the other one, I believe, obviously enough, should be like that. And the bolt in the angle, we have access to it underneath. Okay, we're going to proceed with the valve covers. As you can see, we have ordered new spark plug tunnels, tubes or something like that. As you can see, we have decided with the owner to go with the OEM ones, because previously I had some bad experience with the aftermarket ones. They break down, they start to leak. Really, just buy the OEM ones. I know that they are a little bit more expensive, but yes, you can reuse them. You can use them for several years, even if you remove the valve cover once again. In his case, these were the original ones, and which I have removed from the car. They are getting brittle. That's why we decided to go with the OEM new ones. Once again, this is going to last for roughly 10 years. Even once again, if we decide to remove the valve cover, you can leave them and just, let's say, change the valve cover seal. Gasket, actually, this is what we have bought. Actually, it's not the OEM one. It comes with new bolts, which are on the front, and I forget one on the back. The O-rings for the Valvetronic unit motor, some O-rings installed here. Pretty much the whole kit comes all together, but the only thing differently is that the tubes. So I'm going to install them in the engine. As we know, on every cylinder head we're going to have 4 of them. They are all the same. Okay, so pretty much I'm ready to install the valve cover. I have installed the gasket here. I have replaced these rubber things for the bolts, which were really brittle and they feel like a plastic already. So it's a good idea that we are changing it. They sit on the place of the actually nuts, not bolts. So let's install it. Yeah, we're going to need to put some silicone on the edges, here, 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 and on the gasket, here and here. I'm not putting usually silicone on this curvage here, which can be seen on different BMW engines. I'm putting only on these points. When it's smooth curve, I don't put silicone there. And of course, when you're installing it, it's not going to be so easy, because you need to iron up the spark plug tubes in their places, because they have some rubber thingies which you need to align in the valve cover. I have put some silicone grease on them so to install it a little bit easier, but still you're going to need to push it inside, so there will be some tension. So after pushing a little bit, I think I have guided up the tubes. Just to show you underneath that the cover is sitting. Yeah, it's not flush because I need to install the bolts, but once again, the longer nuts should be on the top. As you can see, the stud is much more deeper than the lower one, which we need to install the shorter nut. So now I'm going to install all of them, plus the bolts here and one here. Pretty much we're going to tighten it up to 10 Newton meters firstly. But after that, the nuts, only the nuts, we're going to tighten them up to 15 Newton meters. Because the studs which these nuts is installed is M7. But the bolts, the 5 bolts in total, we're going to tighten them up to 10 Newton meters, no more than this, because the bolts are M6, and as you know, the M6 should be torqued to 10 Newton meters. That's why the nuts can take a little bit more than the bolts. So okay, I'm going to change my setting to 15, like that, just to show you. 15 Newton meters, and once again only the nuts. The installation of the Valvetronic motor seal is pretty straightforward. It's not even stiff. Actually, here is flat on the back, and on the front we have some different profile. This is how you're going to know how to install it. As you can see, it's pretty easy to put it in place, so not big of a deal. No. No. For sure, this is one of the toughest valve covers to install, because in the car is much more harder, but just show you that it's flat before installing the nuts here, as you can see. So yeah, here it's going to fall down when I tighten up the nuts. I'll just show that before starting tightening up, check out all the surface where the gasket lies out, because it's easy to fall down while you're tapping it with the hammer. So we're going to continue with the coolant valley, which looks like that. This is one-time use. When you remove it, you're going to need to replace it, because this gasket here is one-time use. It's not sold separately from BMW. I know some people are putting silicone here, so not change it, but most of the time it starts leaking from here. I know it's not the cheapest thing, but it's a good idea to replace it, guys. I know there is some aftermarket ones, but we're going to go with OEM genuine one, because we don't have to have issues with it. And actually, let me show you something. This is pretty common scene on this engine. As we can see, we have some fittings here. I cannot clean this, guys. This is during the years this have been developed, and there is some places on which we have these fittings which have came from corrosions. So yeah, this is how they look like. It's like somebody have hit it, but probably this is not the case. Some damage during the years. Some people are going to say put some silicone there, but as you can see, this how thick it is, and it is looking like a silicone. This should do the job without putting some additional silicone, because this is thick enough. So I think we are not going to have any issues with it. So it's time to install a water pump. We have decided that we're going to replace it, because this is the original pump that the car came out of the factory, and it's kind of old. That's why we're going to use this new unit. Yeah, it's not OEM one, it's HEPO. Some people are complaining about these water pumps, but for now I haven't had an issue with them. Probably sooner or later we're going to have some issues, but for now they work out for me. So hopefully it's going to stay like this. So the water pump doesn't come with the thermostat. This is the thermostat which we're going to reuse. Of course, we're going to replace the gasket on it. First I'm going to install the water pump, after that the thermostat, and this is what else we're going to replace. This is the fitting which goes on the coolant valley pan. This is connecting the water pump and the valley pan cooler. So I'm going to install it, and together with it we're going to install the whole water pump. The pipe goes in the pump. Actually, let me try to install it first here. Like that. I have put some silicone grease. And now the pump, there is a sleeve which is guiding the pump in place. So like that. Now I'm going to hold it on bolt. Okay, front differential. The torque spec for the 4 bolts is 55 Newton meters. Hopefully it's going to be enough to make this puppy stay in place. So I have replaced the O-ring as you saw guys on the back. And on this X5s there is some kind of seal, additional seal between the open and the differential, which most of the newer X5s and newer BMWs don't have it, but this one has it. So yeah, we have replaced it. And now I'm going to replace the seal, of course, on the axle side. Okay, so let's install a dipstick. As you can see here, on first glance you're going to say, what is this? But this is a shim, which we should be able to remove. Underneath is the O-ring, which is sealing the dipstick. So this is the shim which I'm talking about, and now I'm going to remove the O-ring. We're going to replace only the O-ring, the shim is not required. This is the new O-ring. I'm just going to clean it a little bit and I'm going to reinstall everything. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of silicone grease on the O-ring, just to be sure that the dipstick is not going to damage it. Okay, like that. Now the shim, which is going to flatten it up. Now the dipstick. Like that. Now is this bracket, which is going to hold everything in place. Okay, I think I found a new nut for our purposes. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to clean up all the valves. Pretty much they are all the same. We have 4 in total solenoids for the Vanos system. Doesn't matter if you mix them up. I have put some dots on them just to put them on the same place, but if you mix them, it's not end of the world. They are the same part number. Still, I'm going to replace the O-rings on all of them. We have 4 O-rings, these green ones, which are the smaller ones here, and these, which are the green. Once again, originally now they came in black. Once again, this original part number is not aftermarket, but they come in black. Probably some replaced part, I don't know, but this is what it came from the chassis. So I'm going to replace all the O-rings. I'm going to clean them up on the front. Most of the time there is some little bit of debris on them. These ones look almost pretty much clean. Some of them has so small amount of debris, but of course I'm going to clean them up, all of them. We're going to tighten up the brackets for the solenoids to 10 Newton meters. There is one bolt with stud on it, this one. So if I don't remember wrong, it should be on this solenoid. If it's not, it's not end of the world. I'm going to put it on a different place, but I'm pretty sure that it was here. So let's tighten them up, like that. Okay, so I'm starting to preparing the intake manifold. I'm not sure am I going to install it now, because I need to install an engine on the front axle, and for that I'm going to need to attach the chains here, and most of the time the intake manifold is on my way, so probably going to install first the engine on the front axle and then going to install the intake manifold. But before that I'm going to clean up some surfaces like here and where the injectors are installed. You're going to ask yourself why I have removed the injectors. Because we have decided with the owner that we want to check them in what condition they are, and especially clean them if there is some issues. And actually they were in pretty good condition. There were few of them which were a little bit out of the ordinary compared with the other ones, but after cleaning it for some time they came pretty good. Right now the injectors are checked on the bench test. They are spraying as they should be. I have bought some new O-rings, upper and lower. This is all of them. They're Bosch. This is the part number of them. So I have bought 16 O-rings. I know originally these O-rings are different part numbers, the upper and the lower. On the Bosch website we have only one part number, so it should work out. The original ones are extremely expensive. I don't see a point of buying OEM ones. I have never had an issue with Bosch O-rings, so if it was my car I was going to go on the same road. I was not going to buy OEM for sure. Yeah, we have replaced the filters. Let me open up one of them. So this is one of the filters which we have replaced. This is the old one. Actually it's broken. The filtering part is broken, as you can see here. Doesn't matter, we have put new ones. So right now this should be all fine. Yeah, I cannot show it because it's inside the injector right here, but we have replaced all of them. Now I'm going to clean the manifold and we're going to see how we're going to proceed. Okay, so I have took the engine out of the workshop and now I'm going to give it a try while holding it with the hydraulic jack. So let's give it a try. This is the second 60 degrees. We're going to need to do it 2 more times. So let's give it a try. Okay. Okay, we're going to need to do it one more time.
Да, ключките полиция. Сега направи пауза да го стегне и после го включи накрая.
Да ти сплюсал нещо. Но 30, още 20 градуса. Още 5. Да, още на... Ай, готов. Пускай. Okay, so 3 times 60 degrees. This is not going anywhere for sure. Now I'm going to install the rest of the pulley, so to be able to install the serpentine belts and stuff. We have decided with the owner to paint up the front axle, the holders of the front sleigh bar mountings. This is the front sleigh bar also. So yeah, we decided to do a little bit of restoration of the car. Right now it's a little bit dusty, but yeah, believe me, it have been painted, sandblasted and painted. So yeah, now we're going to install the engine to the front axle finally. Okay, so I have installed the flywheel. We have put new bolts here, new fasteners. They came with thread locker, because if you don't put thread locker on, then the crankshaft is going to leak from behind. That's why they should have a thread locker. So the torque spec for all of them is 105 Newton meters. So the gearbox is attached to the engine. I have decided to remove the pump from behind and attach it right now, because after that it's going to be a little bit harder. I just disconnected this hose which goes to the heater inside the car, and now I'm going to install the air intake. I have installed all the injectors with the rail, everything, the wiring. This is the new gaskets which we're going to use for it. They are, I think they were the same on the both sides. The torque spec was 15 Newton meters. So now we're going to install it, and after that probably going to throw out all the wiring and start connecting everything. I'm still trying to figure out how was the pipes for the automatic gearbox. Of course, we're going to replace the O-rings here, and we're going to replace it also here. This is for the engine cooling, engine oil cooling. Steering rack have been rebuilt. I have installed it back in place. Just going to need to tighten it up. Actually, on a second thought, I have forgot, but the positive wire for the alternator goes underneath the intake manifold. So now I'm going to route it up, but actually even after that I'm not going to tighten up the intake manifold, because you can see the coolant lines which are attaching on the both sides of the cylinder heads here and there. It's going to be really hard to install them after that, so for now I'm going to leave it loose like that until I attached these hoses, and then I'm going to completely tighten it up. For now I'm just going to leave it like that, so to not get any debris inside the engine. When you have disassembled something before a few months, this is what is happening. So it turns out that the pipes for the coolant lines on the automatic gearbox is attaching here on this bolt underneath. It's not big of a deal, but I need to remove this whole console so to make the hose go through here, because this fall apart completely, this plastic which is holding the bolt lines to the open. In this case I just put some rubber hose on this pipe here, outer pipe, and I just hold it with some zip tie. For sure this bolt, if I start removing it, it's going to snap, but I was not able to find this plastic anywhere. So yeah, I just put a hose here, and for sure it's not going anywhere, it's thick. So you know, rubber is always better than plastic for vibrations at least, so this should do the job. Okay, so the engine is back in the car. Yeah, I have put the wiring all aside. It was kind of struggle to maneuver the steering rack column while I was putting the engine from below, but it is possible. It's not so hard if you have a second person with you to aim it while you are lifting up the engine. I have bought new rings for the AC lines here and here. Okay, so I have managed to figure out how this coolant hose is getting through here. It goes above the vent pipe, and yeah, after that tighten up the intake manifold to 15 Nm. But when you're doing this, you're always asking yourself, do I forget something? Probably I'm forgetting something, but what is this thing that I'm forgetting? And yeah, I forgot this coolant aluminum pipe which goes underneath here, and it's connecting here, and behind is connecting with some clip like this, not this hole but the other one. So yeah, I'm going to need to remove once again the intake manifold, route up this aluminum pipe and reinstall it back together. But this is part of the job, right? Okay, and after the installation of the pipe and the quick attachment here and to the heater core, so let's reinstall back the intake manifold. Okay, so the vacuum pump, this is it. And what we can say about it: BMW is selling this O-ring here on the front, which is this ring. This is the original one from BMW. But when they start leak from this cover here, which is hot with this T30, I think it was, bolts, BMW is not selling it. So you're going to need to buy the whole pump or try your work with some RTV or something like that. But most of the time it not works. So I have decided to do my own seal, which goes here, which actually I'm selling. If you want, you can contact me through Facebook or something like that, and I can send you. Now I'm going to open it up, and we're going to change this ring, and pretty obviously this one, but this is self-explanatory. So let me open it up, and I'm going to show you how the original looks like, and I'm going to compare it with mine. So yeah, this is what we're going to do. Once again, if you want to fix your leak from here, BMW only recommends to change the whole pump. They are not selling this gasket on this cover. So this is it, what is inside. So yeah, this is the dripping coil a little bit. So as we can see, this gasket, it's pretty much flat out with the housing of the vacuum pump. So let's remove it and compare it with the new one. This is what the gasket looks like. It's little bit rounded up just to show the comparison with the new gasket. As we can see it from the housing. So now, before I install everything, I'm going to clean it a little bit and then I'm going to install everything, but let's clean it a little bit better. Okay, so I clean it as good as possible, let's say. So the assembly is pretty straightforward. Yeah, this is the both old O-rings, this is the both new, this is the part number for the O-ring which is sellable from BMW, but you can find it by yourself, I guess. Now, let's put a little bit of assembly loop. Okay, this is plenty enough. I'm just going to put it a little bit on the walls. And let's put the flap. So this is how it's supposed to be working. Yeah, actually this rounded parts can fall down when you are removing the flap, so take care to be sure that these are in place on both sides, like these are. So it doesn't matter how you're going to assemble it, doesn't matter which way, because you're going to need to rotate it so to aim it in the camshaft. So let's put the other seal, and after that is the cover. So like that. You can install it only one way, because if we rotate it either way, the bolts not going to match up. So there is only one way how you can install it. In our case, it's like that. And yeah, the bolts, I'm not putting any thread locker on it. There is not so much stress on them. BMW, of course, is not giving us some torque specs for these bolts. So yeah, it's not big of a deal. 10 Newton meters, for those of you that are wondering, is going to be plenty enough for these bolts. And pretty obviously, this O-ring goes here. It's ready to be installed in the engine. Okay, so pretty much I'm almost ready with the assembly. Yeah, the vacuum pump is installed. All the hoses, I mean water hoses, hydraulic system hoses, everything is attached. I have replaced this vacuum line which is inside the wiring loom. So yeah, I have attached the vacuum hose behind here. Let me show you. It's here. This, if I don't remember wrong, it was for the fuel pressure regulator. The Valvetronic motors are installed also. All the wiring is attached, I believe. The only thing that's left is to attach the air mass meter, of course. Now I'm going to install the piping here for the air filter. And yeah, just to show you the wiring here. Everything is attached to the ECM. All the plugs are attached here. Don't forget your ground here. So there are two wires which are attaching here. And there is one more ground underneath, but I cannot show you which is attached to the air compressor. This is the main ground between the engine and the chassis. Okay, so pretty much everything essential is taken care, everything is assembled. All the fluids are filled up, the engine oil, the coolant, the hydraulic fluid. Yeah, hydraulic fluid going to take more for sure, so it's going to make some noises in the beginning. I have topped up the coolant. I have forget around, it took around 10 liters. The hydraulic fluid should took around 1 liter, and the engine took 8 liters of oil. This is the oils that I'm using, OEM coolant. We're going to use this Ramsoil oil 550. Actually, I'm using the same oil on my S54. So this is the hydraulic fluid which we are using, Ravenol, and actually on most of the cars we are using this additive to the engine oil. I'm not sure is it sold everywhere, but this is what we are using on our cars which we are servicing. So now pretty much I have attached the battery, and I'm going to try to start it up. Not sure how it's going to be in the beginning. Probably it's going to be loud, no doubt about it, because the hydraulic lifters are empty, the tensioners are empty, everything is pretty much empty. So let's give it a try and see how loud it is, and especially is it going to start. Okay, so we started pretty quickly actually, but I guess we're going to need to install the exhaust manifold because first it's too loud and second all the lambda sensors are disconnected. This is wide band lambda sensors, so they're essential for the engine. So I'm going to lift up the exhaust and we're going to see how it runs with it. So I want to film all the issues that we have right now because as you saw guys, the car was struggling with misfires, and just to show you, as you can see, the exhaust is installed, but the car still has misfires. And the only thing that I found out that is issue, let me show you underneath. The camera doesn't want to focus, but this is the exhaust runner on cylinder number 4 and is dripping oil from there. All the rest cylinders are bone dry, the exhaust runners I mean, and for the exhaust runner to be leaking oil from there, you can imagine how much oil is injecting in the cylinder. So I was starting to think that probably, as you saw guys, we have changed the valve stem seals, but probably some of them were not right, so I disassemble once again. Let me show you. I have removed once again the valve cover on cylinders from 1 to 4, so to check what is happening inside, but everything seems fine. And actually I have even decided to recheck my timing, but everything is perfectly timed. The engine doesn't have any issues. So I decided to insert the camera inside the cylinder number 4, and I saw that indeed the cylinder was filled with oil for some reason, and that's why I have decided to check the valve stems, because if you have an issue with valve stem seal, the stems are going to be oily, let's say. So I have removed the injector on number 4, I have put once again the camera, and I have checked the runner. The intake valves are bone dry as the exhaust ones. So the only thing that's left is even a cracked cylinder head, cracked cylinder, or a bad piston ring, oil piston ring, most likely blocked one. So I have decided to do a test with LPG, liquid gas. So I have filled cylinder number 1 and cylinder number 4. I have filled cylinder number 1 with 100 milligrams and cylinder number 4 with 400 milligrams. And I have rechecked what is happening, and cylinder number 4 has empty itself. The 400 grams from cylinder number 4 empty itself, and everything go through the drip plug here. So here is LPG. I know it's looking like that, but because there is still some oil in the engine, and this is the oil that I have filled. I have removed it because I want to reuse it, because this is a new oil with additive. The 400 grams from cylinder number 4 dripped out completely, while on cylinder number 1 we had at least 50 grams more. And as I told you, I have filled cylinder number 1 with 100 grams and cylinder number 4 with 400 grams. You can imagine the difference between the two cylinders, how much more is dripping from cylinder number 4. So this is happening very rarely. We haven't done anything to the cylinder head or the pistons, but still, because the engine was sitting on the engine stand for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, I don't know how much. I have seen this before. When the engine is sitting for a long time, it's possible the oil piston ring to get crooked and it to not move anymore. As we saw guys in this engine, the engine looked pretty bad inside. It's totally possible this to be the case. Now I have filled the cylinder with at least 2 or 3 liters of LPG, so to clean it as good as possible without disassembling everything again. And now I'm going to reassembling once again the valve cover, everything around the installation, so to check it, is it going to work with cleaning with LPG? Most likely it's not, but we're going to try. If it's not working, once again we're going to need to remove everything. We're going to need to pull down the engine. We're going to need to disassemble the cylinder heads. We're going to need to remove once again the oil pans, so to be able to remove the pistons and try to clean all the piston rings. Probably they are not going to look very good. So, finger crossed. I'm now going to assemble back everything together. We're going to start it and see how it sounds. But once again, I have removed the valve cover. I have checked all the rocker arms. I have checked everything. Everything seems as it's supposed to be. So, yeah, I was concerning that I have done something wrong, but I cannot see anything wrong in the assembly. So, just wanted to share you the issues that we have right now. Not every time the repairs are going straight without any issues. This is one example that things are not straightforward. This can happen, it's really rarely, but clogged piston ring, piston oil ring can cause oily cylinder and massive misfire. And if you continue to run the car like this, you can damage the catalytic converters. That's why I don't want to do it. So let's see what's going to happen. So okay guys, everything is assembled back together, the valve cover, the installation. And yeah, I have started up the car and pretty much the same issue. I have put the camera inside the cylinder, so let me show you. After 30 seconds around of working, something like that. So this is cylinder number 4 once again. And let me see, am I going to be able to show it? Yeah, this is it. As we can see, it's kind of hard to one hand, but there is oil inside for sure. And there is some droplets on the top of the camera. Come on, why do I want to focus? Okay, it's going to be a little bit hard with one hand. For sure something is wrong with these piston rings. There should be not so much oil inside. For 30 seconds of working, still we have a misfire. Probably I'm going to need to remove everything. Probably we're going to do both cylinder heads, because there is no sense to do only one and after that find out that we're going to have similar issue on the other one. So I don't want to risk it. We're going to remove the both cylinder heads. We're going to remove all the pistons. I'm going to check all the piston rings, what is happening. So as I told you guys, no, all the repairs are going as expected. This is the perfect case to show it. So yeah, it's going to require much more additional work. So now I'm going to again remove the engine, and I'm going to remove the cylinder heads, and I'm going to come back when everything is removed and show you how the pistons are looking, the piston rings and everything around it. So yeah, it sucks, but I cannot do anything about it. The car cannot be driving like that for sure. The catalytic converters are going to be damaged for a really short period of time. The car is undrivable for sure. I have tried disconnecting the Valvetronic sensors on the back, but still the engine is misfiring. So yeah, things like this happen. It's kind of rare, but nothing you can do about it. So let's continue wrenching. So the engine is once again on the engine stand. Once again, just for showing purposes, once again the problematic cylinder is number 4, which is this one. And just to show you that the valves are completely dry. So just to show you inside that the valves are dry. Actually we have some rust developed inside, which is pretty interesting. Probably some water intrusion had before here, but for sure they are dry, and we have no issues here. Of course we're going to see the exhaust fans, but most of the time this is not going to be the issue. Now am I going to be able to show you? Yeah, you can see how oily is this runner here. Okay, so I have cleaned up 4 pistons out of 8. Just to show you quickly, one cleaned. Yeah, actually it took a lot of cleaning to be able to clean up the piston rings, because they were pretty cocked up. I think now it's clean, all the holes are clean. I checked them. I have to remove the spring like that, like on this piston, so to clean it separately, because all the windings were cocked up with old oil. This is one which is not clean. As you can see, the piston ring actually on this is not so bad, but still it's pretty cocked up. So I'm going to clean the other 4, and we're going to install everything back together. Yeah, I have sanded the cylinder heads just to check them in what condition they are. So the biggest issue with them was the valve beds. They needed a lot of job on the valve beds, because they were kind of weared up, but they have redone them. I'm going to show you when they came back. And yeah, we're not going to change the piston rings. There is no point. I don't see any wear on them. So I think it's going to do a pretty good job. Just to show you one oil piston ring, that the holes are not cocked up anymore. As you can see, we are seeing through all of them. This is the idea, and the important thing is this spring to be free, to not be cocked up with old oil. As you can see, it's cleaned up pretty good. So after waiting for the machine shop to prepare the cylinder heads, let me show you what is the final result. So here are the both cylinder heads. Pretty much the casual machine shop work on BMW cylinder head. The cylinder head have been resurfaced, have been checked for cracks. Yeah, the car didn't have issues with any pressure in the coolant system, but still It's not so expensive to check for cracks, so we decided to do it. All the valves were reseated. This is the most tedious job to do. As usual on all the BMW heads, all the guides of the exhaust valves are replaced on the both cylinder heads because they are wearing out pretty quick. This is what have been done to the cylinder heads, and yeah, the cylinder heads right now are cleaned up. They are ready to be installed. I have bought OEM cylinder head gaskets because recently there are a lot of issues with the aftermarket ones, and I don't want to risk it because this is a really involving job. I know the OEM gaskets are kind of expensive, but hopefully you're doing this only once, just do it right. Yeah, you can go with aftermarket bolts. It's not going to be an issue. I haven't had an issue with aftermarket bolts. I have decided to buy a new OEM studs with nuts. Actually, here are the pistons, the 6 pistons. I have cleaned up them as good as possible on the ultrasonic. I don't know how many times it took me so to clean them in this condition. All of the piston rings are in pretty good shape. All of them are moving freely. I think all of the oil piston rings are cleaned and all the grooves and the holes are seen right now, so it should not be an issue. Now I'm going to start reassembling back the pistons in the engine. I'm not going to go in crazy details about this because I know this video is getting extremely long. I was not expecting this to happen. It's cylinder number 4. It's really rarely this to happen, but actually at least the cylinder is looking in a good shape. I don't see any scarfing or anything like that. For sure there is going to be some where the owl seal, I think was called, or nickel seal, have been reduced during the years, but still it should run. So yeah, I have bought actually once again new bolts for the where they were. Yes, this is the new bolts once again for the conrods. You need to replace them every time you remove them, so I know it's getting expensive, but if you want to do it as it's supposed to be, there is no shortcuts about this. The only other gasket that I'm going to replace once again is on the is on the main oil pan. The rest I'm going to reuse them, they should be fine, but if the gasket on the main oil pan fails, you can guess how much work involves to redone it once again. So that's why I'm going to replace once again this gasket. It's not so expensive. I'm not going to use OEM one. And actually for installation of the pistons, I'm usually using a sleeves, but this is the only size that I have, 84 and so on to 86. And I think these pistons were around 92 or 93 millimeters, so I don't have exact sleeve for installing them in place. So I guess I'm going to need to use the usual universal tool for this, which sucks because I hate using this tool. So all the pistons installed in place. They have position. Yeah, I have made some arrows, but if you take a closer look, you're going to see the arrows. Yeah, there is an arrow which is pointing forward to the engine. Okay, let me rotate it. This is always so satisfying to see how everything rotates without having compression, because it's kind of easy to do it. I have put some assembly loop in the cylinder, so everything should be fine. So now I'm going to start with assembly of the cylinder heads. I'm going to start with this one, doesn't matter which one you're going to start with. I'm going to try to take the chain out of here and hold it somehow, because when installing the cylinder head you're going to need to aim it through the two guides from here. It's going to be kind of hard, but I'm going to manage to do it. And yeah, I'm placing the pistons like that, so to be sure that when I'm installing the camshafts on the top, I'm not going to press any of the valves with the pistons, so to be just one extra secure step. All the threads are cleaned up and degreased. I'm going to put some oil on the bolts, of course. OEM gaskets, they are the same on the both sides. The part numbers is the same on the both cylinder heads. It's important to have these guiding pins on place, so to be sure that the gasket is not going anywhere, and also the cylinder head is going to be placed as it's supposed to be. So the both cylinder heads are installed and tightened up. So quickly the torque specs: 22 Newton meters for these both bolts on the front, which should be tightened up. Lastly, the main bolts, and yeah, don't forget to transfer the shims on the old bolts on the new bolts, because they came without the shims, and if you don't transfer them, it's possible to damage the cylinder box, so don't forget the shims. So the main bolts, 30 Newton meters, and for sure check them at least one more time or even two more times, because when you tighten up all the bolts to 30 Newton meters, believe me, the center ones are going to loosen themselves, and if you check them once again, they're going to need retorquing. So 30 Newton meters, at least checking them two times. After that, two times 90 degrees. I always put some oil, engine oil, on the threads, on the head of the bolt and on the shim. On all the BMW engines I'm doing this and never had an issue with this. So just a preference for me, put some lubricant on the threads. And yeah, before that, of course, check the threads inside, are they clean? There should be no oil inside. So right now I'm in the process of changing these studs, for which I have bought new nuts. This is for the exhaust manifold. I have removed pretty much all of them. This is on the right cylinder head, this is the old ones. I have removed all of them on the both cylinder heads, and now I'm going to install the new ones. It's not essential, but they were kind of old and rusty, so that's why I want to change them. For the next person which is going to work on this engine, it's going to be much more easier to remove the exhaust manifolds without any struggle. So that's why I'm changing them. Don't forget, as I showed you, but don't forget, this mandatory to put some silicone on the edge between this cover and the cylinder head gasket. So on the both cylinder heads should do this. This is on the other side, of course, so don't forget this. Okay, so pretty much the engine is timed, the timing chains are connected, everything is where it's supposed to be. Yeah, I have changed once again these bolts because BMW was claiming that they are one-time use. Pretty much you can reuse them, but I want to play it safely, and quickly going to show you that everything is where it's supposed to be. So the timing pin goes here like that. So the crankshaft is locked, and let's show you the locking of the camshafts. Okay, I take one. So flat here. Oops, but it's completely flat on this side. Actually, BMW is claiming, and it's not claim, it should be fine, that if this tool is not evenly seated on cylinder head, BMW is claiming that you can fit 0.5 millimeters of fuel gauge here, and still this should be fine. But in our case, I just wanted to show you that we're completely flat. So I'm not going to be able to fit any type of fuel gauge. Let me show you on the other side. So here, actually guys, I'm going to give you some tip about these engines, because I'm sure that someone is going to struggle with this sooner or later, which probably is watching this video and is thinking, what is happening? So give me just a second to show you that the four camshafts are precisely where they're supposed to be. So watching the engine like that and timing it up, you're always going to have timing issues with timing up this camshaft, the exhaust camshaft on the left cylinder head. Yeah, on the left cylinder head. All the three camshafts are going to be pretty easy to time them up, but you're going to always have issues with this camshaft. When you tighten up everything and you put your tool, and when you put your tool like that, and the tool is going to be lifted up from here, and you're going to wonder what is happening. And no, it's not going to be because I haven't put this mechanical tensioner here. Believe me, I have tried, I have worked on these engines many years, and I know that you're not going to see any difference either you put this tensioner, hydraulic tensioner, or the mechanical tensioner. Either way, once again, this tool is going to push up from here. So the thing that you're going to need to do when you're tightening up this bolt to 80 Newton meters, you're going to need one more person. He's going to catch up. This is number 30, number 30, and you're going to fit it here where the both lines are located. And yeah, you can do it by yourself, but if you have one person, it's going to be easier. So you're going to put some pressure towards me in this case, to this side, and while he's torquing up this bolt, you're going to put some tension. So let me show you that there is a small movement in the camshaft. Right now I don't have it because the bolt is tightened up, but before tightening it up, you're going to have a small movement of the camshaft because the tool is not precisely 100% fitting tightly here. And even in the manual BMW, they are stating that you should hold the wrench here when you tighten up this bolt. But on this camshaft especially, you're going to want to pull up the camshaft a little bit while tightening up this bolt. This is the only way you're going to perfectly tighten up this engine, this camshaft especially, because as once again all the other three camshafts are kind of easy. You don't need to hold it pretty tightly so to get exactly flat with the tool on the cylinder heads, but this one you're going to need to put some pressure towards this side, and this is how you're going to make it perfectly even when you tightening up this bolt, and after that rotating engine and rechecking everything. It's not going to be because I'm using the hydraulic tensioner once again. So the engine is perfectly timed, everything is assembled where it's supposed to be, so I'm going to continue with closing up everything, the valve covers, the time chain covers, the open, and yeah, I'm going to come back when I'm ready with that. So pretty much the engine is assembled. The only thing that is left is to install the intake manifold, but I'm going to do this when I attach the engine to the gearbox, because then it's going to be more appropriate, because I need to hold the engine on these 2 points, and the intake manifold is going to be a little bit on my way. Everything is installed, even the cope works. Yeah, I have installed the intake manifold with new nuts all around. I have cleaned everything and it should seal up pretty good. Previously it was oiling from here. It's still a little bit oily. I tried to degrease it several times, but I guess this cast iron is not so easy to be degreased. I have tried to do the same for the front differential, but still it looks a little bit greasy. Doesn't matter how many times I have sprayed with a brake cleaner. Not big of a deal. So yeah, the compressor is attached. Yeah, pretty obviously I showed everything in the previous part of the videos. So now let's put it back in the car once again, hopefully for the last time. Okay guys, just show you underneath. For now there is no leaks, at least I don't see any of them. I just refilled the gearbox because I have disconnected it from here, which was the cooling lines. So usually you're going to lose between half a liter or 1 liter. So I just refilled the gearbox. We need this gearbox especially is 6-speed gearbox. This is the oil which is recommended to be used. As matter it states that it's lifetime. And I'm going to put it down on the ground to show you how it runs, but there is nothing like before. Just checking the temperature. Let me show you what fault codes we have, or do we have any of them. This is the ECM actually. So for now no fault codes, which is really promising. Before we had so much misfires. I don't know, these piston rings, I don't know, just small chance or something like that, but the difference is from night and day. Actually I'm not sure did I show you, but previous shop we have installed here normal bolts for holding this piece of the exhaust manifold, and I bought the original ones which are with spacer here, as you can see. Yeah, the owner probably going to change these springs here because they are worn out and don't put enough pressure on the cones here, so it's a good idea to change the springs on the bolt so to have enough pressure on the cones and don't have any exhaust leaks from here. So yeah, this is the proper way how to do it. Original bolts, they are in some unique design, so it's hard to find identical ones without buying the original ones, which the previous shop tried to do. So just to show you how the engine is running right now, with everything assembled back together. Once again, nothing like before. The engine is running really smooth, without any shakiness, any misfires. You can hear it clearly on the camera. Previously it was heavily misfiring on this bank here, especially on cylinder number 4, which was filling up the cylinder with oil because of the cocked up oil piston rings. Right now all the piston rings are cleaned up, and probably this was the issue. I didn't find any details wrong with the engine when disassembling. Yeah, bits of the valves were pretty bad, but previously the engine was running with them, so probably this was not the issue. But still the cylinder heads were for rebuilding for sure, because on the exhaust valves all the guides from the valves were pretty worn out. So it's not a bad thing that we have rebuilt the cylinder heads with resetting the valves and changing of the guides of the exhaust valves, which on every BMW engine you don't have this issue wearing out of the exhaust guides. But this is done, and Now the engine is running pretty good. Let me start it up to show you how fast it's starting. Actually, we are almost warmed up. Let me see the gauge. Yeah, almost. So let me start it once again. I really like how the engine is running right now. It's really smooth. Doesn't matter it's on the lift. Usually when the car is on the lift, you can feel the vibrations of the engine a little bit more because the car is not on the tires, but even like that it runs pretty smooth. I know this is a really long series about this rebuild, but sometimes it's good to share what issues we go through when rebuilding an engines like this. Not always it goes butter smooth without any issues. The person which tell you that he have rebuilt tons of engines without have any issues, he's lying to you probably. So that's why I decided to share you what we gone through after changing the timing chains and the bearings. It's nothing related to the timing chains and stuff, but things like this happens when the engine is on several 100,000 kilometers. Cocked up piston rings can lead to some strange behavior if you leave the engine for several months without touching it. So for now everything looks promising. I'm going to take the car for a test drive to see if everything feels okay, how it pulls. After that again I'm going to put it on the lift. We're going to lift it up and check for any leaks, but for now everything seems dry. I have filled up pretty much everything, all the fluids. Okay, so pretty much I have done around 150 kilometers with this car, so to see that everything is fine, and I can say that everything is fine. The car feels pretty good. I'm not going to lie, we had one issue, which is down there on the core of the gearbox. So this hose exactly there pops out of its place, and pretty much around 4 or 5 liters of the gearbox oil got out from there, and everything got greasy again. It was terrible. I figured out why it pops up, because there were 4 legs which is holding the hose in place, and only one was sticking out, so the other 3 ones were kind of crooked out, and they didn't hold a lot, so I needed with some screwdriver to pull them out once again. So after pulling out the rest of the 3 teeth, now the hose is sticking pretty good, and I'm sure that there will be no issues. You cannot be sure 100% ever, but still it's much better than before. So this is the issue which I had, which is nothing related to the other stuff that we have done. So now the car is sitting here for the whole night. It's cold as much as it can. The weather is also cold. I'm going to show you how it sounds the first start. I have shown you how it was sounded before. So for some reason on the first start the car cranks up 1 second longer. Not sure why, but after that it starts up pretty fast on the other starts up, but the first cold start is always a little bit longer for some reason. We don't have any fault codes or something like that, but this is it. So let me start it up. So I don't think we have the noise which we had previously from the chain. The engine seems quiet and it's running smooth. So yeah, I think this is going to be it. The owner should be pleased. I'm going to just recheck the coolant and the hydraulic fluid, and yeah, of course the engine oil. But yeah, this is end of this saga finally. So okay guys, I'm going to finally end up this series of this E53 with N62. It was kind of long video, I know, but this is it, nothing I can do about. Sometimes things get bad, and it's old cars, everything can go wrong. But I think we figured it out. The engine pulls pretty good in my opinion. The owner is going to say he knows his car better. So yeah, thank you for watching guys, and hopefully see you in the next videos.
Wow.